Good morning. I'm Vice Mayor Shanika Smith, the Chair of the Boards and Commissions Committee. I would like to welcome you all to our October 12th remote meeting. All council committee members and staff are participating virtually. To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through our virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. For those out there with us today, welcome. For today's meeting, we have the option for people to call in and comment live during the meeting. To call in and comment live, use the same number, 855-925-2801, meeting code 9478. Your phone will be muted and you'll hear the live meeting. At the point, the speakers will press *3 to enter the speaker queue. I'll now go through and introduce all of our committee members and staff who are participating virtually. Antoinette Mosley.
Good morning.
Kim Roney.
Hello.
We have Sarah Gross from the deputy, she's the deputy city clerk.
Good morning.
Assistant clerk Jerry Goldberg.
Good morning.
All right. Good morning to you all. Now we have approval of our minutes from September 12th. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, I'll do a vote to approve the minutes. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Minutes have been approved. Do we have anybody in the speaker queue for public comment?
We do not have any callers in the queue.
All right, we'll move on to our agenda. We have October board appointments. Our first appointment is a vacancy for Board of Adjustment. We don't have any applications received, so if we can just re-advertise for that. Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee, we have one vacancy here. The chair and staff liaison have recommended David Bartholomew. Are there any comments or a motion for approval or recommendation?
This is Kim. I move to recommend David Bartholomew for HIAC. I'm second.
All right, motion is second. I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney.
Aye.
And myself, aye, for the recommendation of Mr. David Bartholomew to the Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee. Moving on to the vacancy for Human Relations Commission. There is no recommendation from the board chair, but staff liaison sent us in a recommendation for Mr. Harvey Dean. Any comments or Kim?
So I need to acknowledge that the chair did send an email on October 8th. Tanya Rodriguez says, quote, I strongly recommend a moratorium effectively immediately on any new members on the HRCA until we have permanent staff in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We don't need new members. We need to build a cohesive group. And when the Office of Equity and Inclusion is staffed permanently, we can begin to build our membership up. We have members leaving due to the constant transition of the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And I do not want to risk a revolving door commission that is the expense of our time and effort due to non-permanent staff. In support and solidarity, Tanya Rodriguez. That's the end.
Thank you for reading that. And she did send that recommendation into the committee. I do not see the logic behind not filling one vacancy, being that they're going into a retreat next month. It seems that if they have any vacancies that needs to be filled so that they can build the cohesiveness that she's asking for. So with that being said, I'll make a motion to seat Mr. Harvey Dean. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney.
Aye.
Myself, aye. And hopefully Mr. Harvey Dean is ready. I do believe so, based on the handwritten letter that he sent us. So very nice for him to take the time. And hopefully that group will be able to make quorum moving forward. I think it's very important that they have those seats filled.
I believe it's Harvey Harold. Did you say Harvey Dean?
Did I say Harvey Dean? Harvey Harold?
I believe Dean is his middle name.
Okay, Harvey Dean Harold. Thank you. All right, we had several applications for the Noise Advisory Board, but thankfully, to help us out to cipher through a lot of those applications, Ben Woody and his, well, I'll say the Development Services Department sent in a lot of recommendations. They have a lot of requirements for this board, from neighborhood representation, restaurant industry, construction industry, acoustic engineering field, and also performing arts. I'm inclined to follow the recommendations of Development Services, but we do have an issue. The recommendation of Liliana Woody for restaurants, she lives in the county. Also, the acoustic engineer representative recommended Mr. Matthew Colton. He lives in Fletcher. We do make exceptions to the rules sometimes, but I just wanted to lay that out to the committee for discussion.
Well, I'm wondering, looking at the 3 residence seats, I see that, I have 2 things. Sharon Davis representing Central. We received several emails from folks living in the Central District recommending Mr. Charles Beck. So initially, I would have been inclined to include him in the Central District. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I believe Rick Freeman, although he's listed under the resident seat, I believe he has an acoustic background as well.
He does.
Right? So I'm wondering if we could replace, although I'm very impressed with Mr. Colton, if we decide not to go outside the city, if we could move Mr. Freeman over to that seat.
This is Kim. So I wonder, can we go by the categories? Because I have a few questions about a number of these, not just who's not in the city limits when we had so many applications that are, but also it seems to me that we have an opportunity to also have a renter, not just owners at the table. So the Central location, Elliot's application is that he's a renter, and that's on page 76 of our packet.
And Elliot, what is Elliot's last name?
Let me pull this up, page 76. As I mentioned to staff, and it would be really helpful to have these in Word document, is Elliot Eicher.
Okay, so let's start with the first requirement, which is to have 3 seats filled by neighborhood representatives. For the recommendation from Development Services is that we appoint Meg Riley for West, Sharon Davis, Central, and Rick Freeman for representing East. So far, I've heard that for us to consider Charles Beck to represent Central and to move Rick Freeman to the acoustic engineering position and to fill his seat with possibly, I have here Charles Warren. Who else is under East?
I have Charles Warber. And the other thing that's tricky about this one is
Warner is what I have. I think, is it Warber or Warner?
That was a typographical on my part. It's Warner. Apologies.
Thank you. So these are a little bit tied. For the West Asheville seat, I would recommend Jessica Thomason. I know that staff has recommended Jessica for the performing arts. And we have Jeff Santiago, who is currently in the performing arts. So I know that his band played a show last week. So when I was looking at who's currently not just representing venues, but who's performing, making sure that we have someone at the table, I feel like Jeff would be strong there, which is why I would recommend Jeff later, but Jessica for the West Asheville seat, Elliot Eicher for the Central seat, and Rick Freeman for the East seat.
I was pretty solid with, I felt good about Jessica remaining in the performing arts just because she represents so many artists and not just locked into one band, one genre. So I would recommend, let's start somewhere, okay? I would like to appoint or recommend the appointment of Jessica Thomason for the performing arts seat. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, with the motion and a second, I will do a vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye, for the approval of Jessica Thomason for the performing arts seat. Let's move up. I'm going to go from the bottom up, and we'll go with the acoustic engineering or related field seat. They recommended Matthew Colton. I have no problem because that's such a technical position. I have no problem with him living outside of the city, but working within the city. Anybody have any comments about that?
I certainly don't have a problem with him. I think he's more than qualified. Where I'm concerned is I feel like we're going to have this butting heads for the resident seat. So I'm trying to move somebody over from one to open up a space in the resident seat.
For me, for this seat,
And then I certainly wouldn't mind the renter that Kim mentioned, Mr. Beck and Megan Riley for the resident seats, even though a couple of them are in the same district. I wouldn't mind the three. If we can move Rick over, that way we can pull in Kim's suggestion, also have someone that the residents really highly recommended, and Megan Riley, which is the staff's recommendation. So I feel like we put 3 birds with 1 stone.
Okay, Kim?
and just for this acoustic engineering related field, I'm going to make a motion to recommend Carmelo Pompliano. Carmelo is an industry professional. He has participated in this process. He's engaged with council and has been following boards and commissions so that I know that he's ready to jump in.
Okay, so now
designate his field. Tell us what his field is. Give us a little bit more because it seems like it is very technical and it has something to do with anything related to sound and sound mitigation. Seems like that's their goal.
Right.
Explain to me.
So Carmelo's application is on page 44. I'm scrolling up this wonderfully long document full of neighbors who are willing to do this work. Carmelo is an audio engineer and acoustic researcher with 12 years professional experience as an audio engineer. I won't read the fullness of the application, but I have seen Carmelo at work.
And Carmelo, give me full name. Because I'm toggling between a couple screens here.
Sure. I'm just making sure I have it right. Carmelo Pompliano. Pampliano. Page 44.
Okay. Is there a motion or more comments?
Sure. So not opposed to him either, but I can't imagine not having at least someone from CAN fill one of those residence seats. So then that would be Rick Freeman. So then I'll go ahead and make a motion for Rick Freeman to be one of the 3 resident seats to get that off the table.
Okay. Jerry, you have a comment?
I believe Councilwoman Roney actually did make a motion. So there's a motion. There was not a second, but there is a motion that was on the floor.
For Carmelo for the audio seat.
I'll second that. I'll do a roll call vote for approval so we can move on. Councilwoman Mosley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney?
Aye.
Myself, aye for the recommended appointment of Carmelo Pompliano to the acoustic engineer seat. Okay, let's go on to our neighborhoods. That seems of high interest today.
You want me to just make a motion for 1 or 2? Well, I'll make a motion for 3 to include Megan Riley, Rick Freeman, and Charles Beck for the resident seats.
I would ask for a friendly amendment to exchange Jeff Santiago's name for Megan Riley for the West Asheville seat.
I'll accept that. Absolutely.
And, okay, so I'm trying to keep up. So for the West Asheville seat, we have name it Santiago. For the East Asheville seat, we're recommending who?
Freeman. Wait a minute. Give me a second. Sorry, so many names. Rick
Freeman.
Freeman.
Rick Freeman, and then our central location, we're naming
Charles.
Beck. All right. All right, we have a motion out there. Is there a second? I'll second it.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll do roll call vote for approval. Antoinette Mosley.
Aye.
Sorry, I'm just calling you all Antoinette, Councilwoman Antoinette. We just here to do business.
Fine.
Okay. Ms. Roney
Aye.
and myself, aye. And motion carries for the appointment of, recommended appointment of Santiago, Freeman, and Beck for our residential seats.
And so the last one would be left would be the restaurant industry. And I think this is something just to keep in mind moving forward is that we have a hospitality industry. By just doing restaurants, we're leaving out, for example, locations that are serving beverages, but not necessarily a full restaurant. However, we do have a local recommendation or a local application from James Corbin. And I am prepared to make a recommendation for James. In fact, I'll just move to recommend James for the restaurant industry seat. James's
second.
application is on page 28.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and a second, I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. So that, I think that does it. We talked about the resident seats. We feel the restaurant.
There's one more.
One with the construction industry. The Development Services Department recommends Sally Spiegel. That's any comments or is there a motion?
Looking through the eligible applicants, I know I appreciate the Development Services made this recommendation. I know they'll be working closely with this group of neighbors. I know we have some applicants and we have one from East Asheville. Anoop Krishnan is in Kenilworth area, to my understanding. I'm prepared to make a recommendation for Anoop.
Can you give me more information about Anoop?
Anoop application is on page 36. I think the strongest part of his application is that he has experience running a restaurant that has a venue with live music. To my knowledge, he's not currently involved in restaurant ownership, but is also a neighborhood representing a neighborhood that has had issues with sound and noise.
I'm so inclined to agree with that. I thought we were doing construction.
I think Anoop has both in their background, restaurant and construction, and is a current restaurant owner. So we kind of get a double there.
As a Kenilworth resident, I'll happily second Kim's motion.
All right, with the motion in a second, I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye, for the approval of Anoop as the recommended representative. Let me get back to thank you, ladies. That was a little less painful than I thought. We worked through it. All right, so we have to make a decision about how we want to move forward with planning and zoning. For those who are listening, we had a few applications in last time, I believe 6, and we decided to interview all 6, but there was not consensus when it came to the full council approval. So we're back to the drawing board, so to speak. So how do we want to move forward? Do we want to accept the new applicants? How many did we have new additional applicants this time?
I believe, and Jerry might want to correct me if I'm wrong, 6 new applications.
Giving us a total of how many if we did
And
decide
11
to?
total.
11. Ooh,
5.
that's a lot, but
5 new.
excuse me?
5 new. since
5
then.
new for a total of 11.
Correct.
Okay, committee, what do you all want to do? Last time, I think we decided to interview all. Are you all still inclined to interview all? If so, we'll schedule that for October 26th.
I'm inclined to interview all just for fairness in the process.
Agreed.
In the process.
Okay, do we need is this just a recommendation that we can send forward, or do we need a vote? I don't think we need a vote.
Let's do a vote, so that's the recommendation that goes to council to also vote on if we want to do all interviews.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
All right. You get that, Jerry?
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
It was a tie. You can just choose one.
Shanique, Vice Mayor, you.
I made the motion, yes. All right, we'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. And we'll present that tonight to full council. And I take it that they'll agree. We have unfinished business. No, we have no unfinished business. There is informal discussion around our annual report. Which one of you ladies is going to take it from here?
Just a very quick update. As we near the end of the year, it's that time for annual reports. So shortly in the coming week, we'll be reaching out to the board chairs and staff liaisons, giving them the template for their committees to start filling out. They are due January 30th. So ideally at your February meeting, we'll have, the full report of all the recommendations and the annual reports. So just a quick update.
All right, thank you for the update. Do we have any callers? It's time for public comment.
We do not have any callers in the queue. I did have one more update I just wanted to mention. At tonight's council meeting, Deborah Jones with Tequity and Brenda Mills, the interim Equity and Inclusion Director, will be given an update on the Reparations Commission. So with the full process, and we are looking at having the application available and to start applying next Monday, which is October 18th. So again, at tonight's council meeting, there will be a full presentation on what that looks like.
All right. Take notes, committee. So we'll be ready for that process. Thank you for the update. If there are no more questions from the committee, all right, we'll adjourn this meeting and we'll see you all tonight or this afternoon.